Hi, Mark Gelfo. It's the end of Wednesday of Greenbuild. Just came out of a session on LEED version 4 and performance. It's really the rollout of LEED v4 here at Greenbuild. It was actually part of the Master Speaker Series, so it was not so much about the technical requirements of each and every section of LEED v4, but really talked about a lot about the history of really design and how LEED v4 fits into that. And it started off with a great quote that I love from Henry Ford, who had said that if he had asked people what they wanted, he would have just built faster horses. And the analogy they made is that LEED v4 is not just a faster horse. It's a big step on the way from going from doing less harm to actually doing good and moving to what really matters in buildings, which is performance. And performance isn't just what we think of as energy performance or waste performance. It's of whole building systems. So we talked a lot about people and buildings and technology, and the fact that buildings are technology that has driven us to really unintended consequences over the years, unintended relationships, where the technology has moved us away from nature. And LEED and LEED v4 is a tool for us to help us move back towards nature. So starting in the 30s, really, where HVAC technology became more cost effective, that really started to give us the opportunity to shut nature out of buildings and lock ourselves into the internal environment. In the 60s, we had half lessons learned from energy efficiency that caused us to close up buildings even tighter, and started to lead to more shutting out of nature, and to the point where it led to indoor environmental air quality problems. Then in the 90s, with the growth of technology, by leaps and bounds with computers, that really just increased the needs of the buildings, and interestingly, allowed us to use technology to design buildings, software replacing architecture in the 90s to really design buildings in a big building boom. And the modern way we design buildings is by specs and the spec book, and it kind of reinforces if we don't change anything, if we just cut and paste a little bit but don't change anything in the way we design buildings, then designers and builders make more money. So we need to get away from that. LEED is a tool to help bring people together, so that rather than designing our systems in silos, that we're bringing it together to design and build buildings holistically, obviously, which we've heard time and time again. But it moves us from doing things like using rules of thumb to size HVAC systems to doing energy modeling. Let's see. LEED is a list of strategies. We talked about strategies don't necessarily lead to outcomes, and LEED traditionally keeps score with both strategies and outcomes, which is a little bit confusing. But LEED v4 is starting to be a new way to help us keep score focused on performance, with the goal as to bring buildings back together as a whole rather than just a sum of individual systems. The new location and transportation category reflects a greater focus on how people get to the buildings. LEED v4 looks at how to use water both inside and outside the building, not as a nuisance but as something useful, and can we use that water in a better way. On the energy side, the LEED v4 has much more stringent energy requirements, ASHRAE 90.1 2010 being tops there. Of course, the materials category has been completely overhauled to reflect a new way of thinking about products. LEED v4 and USGBC want designers to want to know what goes into the products that they're specifying in their buildings, and what is the impact of bringing those products into buildings. That's why the materials credits are now all about transparency, knowing what goes into those products. And then, of course, the IEQ credits continue to emphasize the focus on health and quality of life, which is a big piece of LEED v4. Then at the end, Scott Horst, the VP of LEED for USGBC, talked about something that we've heard about in the LEED IAC committee, which is the new LEED dynamic plaque, kind of a way of tracking ongoing performance in 5 dynamic categories: human experience, transportation, waste, water, and energy. The idea being that certification of a building should never be done. Just because we have design phase and construction phase credits in new construction doesn't mean that the certification should be done, should be complete at that point. The LEED dynamic plaque would be a way for LEED buildings, LEED certified buildings, to compare themselves with one another using nearly real-time database, real-time performance categories in a database of LEED buildings. And this may become the new way they do, recertification in future versions. The first LEED dynamic plaque, it's a real thing. They've put it in the USGBC headquarters in Washington, D.C., which was a LEED Platinum building. And in those 5 categories, now it has told them that they have, the actual performance, have moved from Platinum down to Gold. But the good news is now they know that, and they know what they need to do to get it back up to the Platinum level. So I think we're going to be hearing more about the LEED dynamic plaque in the future, and the focus on performance in human experience, transportation, waste, water, and energy.